Hey, GoBlight here with a guide to arts inflictions, reactions, and all things physical statuses. What is electrification? What is crush? What is a heat infliction? These words have definitely appeared hundreds of times on your screen already, and today I'm going to teach you all about these mechanics so you can master them for your combat experience. Be sure to like and sub for more Endfield guides, and let's get started. Arts inflictions are stacks of arts or an element that you can apply onto enemies. So many abilities can do this. Wolfguard's battle skill can apply Heat 1, Estella's battle skill a Cryo 1, Perlica's battle skill can apply Electric Inflictions, and for nature you can with something like Gilberta's ultimate. We have 4 different arts, and each one has their own infliction. These will stack up to 4 times that you can see to the right of an enemy's health bar, and for every infliction past the first, you will deal damage through what's called an arts burst. Think of it like you're overloading the enemy with your elemental type. So after applying the second stack, the third stack, the fourth stack, or even past the fourth stack, even if it does nothing else for you, a burst of the corresponding element will trigger. Some things can occur after triggering bursts, provided they are equipped, like OBJ Arts Identifier, which buffs heat damage and electric damage for the entire team if the wielder applies an arts burst with their combo skill. This is for Mr. Antau. Every burst does the same amount of base damage, and they are not the core part of this elemental system, but just the beginning. But anyways, what an infliction is mostly used for is an arts reaction. Arts reactions are the combination of any elemental infliction that doesn't correspond to the reaction's infliction type that you want, and then that reaction's infliction is applied after. So for example, if you want Combustion, which is Heat's reaction, you must apply Cryo, or Electric, or Nature, and then Heat in that order. If you apply Heat, then one of the others, that instead turns into their respective arts reaction. So we have Combustion, Heat's reaction, which deals an initial burst of damage that can critically hit, and then damage over time for 10 seconds which cannot. This damage over time is dynamic and does not snapshot, meaning any drop or gain in buffs will modify its damage ticks. Electrification is Electric's reaction, dealing a burst of damage again and applying an arts damage taken debuff for a certain duration. We'll see why I say certain duration very soon. Arts damage taken increases any elemental damage you deal to the enemy, including stuff like bursts and other reaction damage, so anything that isn't physical damage. Corrosion is the nature reaction, another initial hit, and then it reduces the enemy's resistance to all types for 15 seconds. It starts out weak, and as the corrosion ticks away, gets stronger and stronger in resistance reduction up to a cap. And finally, we have Solidification, which is Cryo's reaction. It will freeze any crowd control susceptible enemies into place, like squishy small enemies, for a certain duration. But it will still apply to anyone that can't be crowd controlled as a debuff. It deals damage again when applied, but has a unique interaction with physical, unlike any element here. If a physical status or vulnerability is applied to an enemy with Solidification, then Shatter will occur, dealing a large amount of physical damage. But that's not the end of the story. Every reaction scales in 3 ways. Your level scales the level multiplier for the damage. The infliction stacks before the reaction scales multiple things, including the base multiplier for damage, and arts intensity is a third scalar for damage but can also improve other things like damage amplification effects. So since level and arts intensity also affect physical, we'll check them out at the end, and instead now look at how infliction stacks can change reactions. Basically, if you apply 1 nature and then 1 heat, you get a level 1 combustion. But if you applied 4 nature and then 1 heat, you get a level 99 Mafia boss combustion. Okay, it's level 4 in reality, but this works for every single reaction. Combustion's damage from the initial hit and the dot damage multiplier both scale on the enemy infliction stack's pre-reaction. Electrification gets a boost in damage, but also the arts damage taken debuff is increased dependent on the stack's pre-reaction, and also the debuff duration. A 4-stack Electrification is a mighty long and powerful debuff to have. Corrosion gets a boost in damage too, as well as an increase in both the resistance reduction ticks and the maximum resistance reduced. You're looking at double the power from level 1 to 4, and a significant and very rare damage multiplier increase with res reduction. The duration of Corrosion, however, does not change with stacks. And finally, Solidification has the same base hit multiplier that scales on stacks before the reaction, and then the subsequent Shatter also changes based on the stacks. And likewise, so does the duration of Solidification. Notice with all of these that they have a 1, 1.5, 2, and 2.5 times scaling on their damage depending on infliction amount. This is the same for every single reaction, and is also the case for Crush and Breach based on their stacking resource. Now finally, before we move on to physical, you might have noticed that some characters can forcibly apply a reaction. Ardelia's combo can forcibly apply Corrosion. Levitane's enhanced battle skill can forcibly apply Combustion. All this does is apply the effect of the reaction without the initial burst of damage. So Corrosion still reduces resistance, Electrification still increases enemies' arts damage taken, etc. You just miss that initial hit of damage. But forcibly applying a reaction, unless indicated in the kit, also counts as only a level 1 status, as if you only applied one infliction before reacting. So Perlica's Electrification is only 12% arts damage taken before considering arts intensity. They also can have their own duration that is usually worse than the original reaction itself, like Perlica's effect again, that only lasts a baseline of 5 seconds compared to the usual and scaling 12 seconds. Potentials can change this though, like Ardelia's Corrosion getting a buff in her potential 5, so watch out for that. But then there's a final nuance to forcibly applying. In the case of abilities that specifically consume infliction stacks and then forcibly apply a reaction, present in Alesh, Arknight, and Yvonne's kits, this does something extra. Any stack consumed scales the applied reaction as if it had that many stacks of inflictions of another type. So, if I consume 4 electric infliction with my Arknight ult, I don't apply a level 1 electrification, but a level 4 one. And so this, for example, lets a mono-electric team still have access to an incredibly potent reaction. Anyways, now onto physical. They're in their own world, not reliant on any other elements, and instead they focus on interacting with each other's stacking capabilities. They can cause their kind of reaction replacement, but without needing other elements, and instead they cause different reaction types based on how their kit works. Physical has vulnerability as their stacking resource, as well as 4 physical statuses: Crush, Breach, Knockdown, and Lift. Vulnerability is not a physical status. Vulnerability can be applied by just having a skill that says it can, like Catch's battle skill, but vulnerability is also applied by every physical status, kind of. We have 2 consumer statuses and 2 stacking statuses. Breach and Crush are the 2 consuming physical statuses. If vulnerability is present, they will consume all stacks and scale their effect dependent on said stacks, kind of like reactions from before, except they don't need other elements. If vulnerability is not present, there are no stacks to consume, and so they therefore apply vulnerability. This means you can use Crush or Breach abilities to sack vulnerability as an opener, and then reactivate it later to consume them when more stacks are applied. Lift and Knockdown are the 2 stacker statuses and do not consume vulnerability. However, if vulnerability is present, Lift and Knockdown will apply their effect while still contributing another stack of vulnerability. And if vulnerability is not present, they still apply that stack, but they do not apply the Lift or Knockdown effect, just like Crush or Breach won't with their effects. So what do all these things do? Breach first is a bit like Electrification. It deals a little bit of damage, scaling on stacks consumed, but more importantly, increases the physical damage taken by enemies for a duration, and all of these things scale with the stacks consumed. And because a full physical team is dealing physical damage with their basics, skills, combos, ults, and even physical statuses, Breach is very powerful to have, and it's why Pogranichnik is so strong for release. Just like arts reactions, the damage scales on your level, and this actually wasn't the case back in Beta 2. Now, Crush is a big damage burst. There's no extra effect, but you get a much chunkier multiplier than Breach. In some teams, you can even Breach early and then alternate with a Crush that gets buffed by said Breach. This can be the case with the pan-Pogranichnik compositions. As for Knockdown and Lift, they deal a small instance of damage, but more importantly, deal 10 stagger. If enemies are susceptible to crowd control, they are also lifted or knocked down. Smart naming scheme. Since they do not consume stacks, they do not scale on them. But along with specific vulnerability applying abilities, they are the only way you can stack up vulnerability for Breach and Crush to then consume them. You can also forcibly apply Lift and Knockdown, like in Estella's kit, but all it does is inflict the Lift or Knockdown effect without requiring vulnerability to first be present. So it can lift or knock down enemies, but it will also deal that bit of damage and the stagger. It's not like the reactions that lose that initial hit of damage when they're forcibly applied. And finally, remember Solidification? It is the only arts reaction that works with physical to do something. When vulnerability or crush or breach or knockdown or lift are applied to an enemy with solidification, well then dependent on the solidification status level, you get a large physical damage burst. So just remember to trigger Shatter in a Shatter comp with your strongest damage dealer with the most buffs, as Shatter is dependent on them and not the applier of the solidification. So that's how all reactions and statuses scale on their stack count. But there are two things missing: the character level scaling and art's intensity. Your character level determines what I'll call the character level multiplier, and it isn't anything crazy, but it is still there. Arts and physical have two different multipliers, so I'll instead just show a chart that has their level multipliers based on every 10 character levels. What this basically means is that the electrification multiplier before of 160% attack at level 90 now becomes 233%, and that works with the stacks. So a 2-stack electrification with a 240% base multiplier becomes 349%. Crush, for example, goes from 300% at 1 stack of vulnerability to 368% with its different character level multiplier. Now, I said there was another scalar to reactions, art's intensity. Before we look at how it changes, let's explain how the reaction damage and effects occur. The applier of a reaction or even an art's burst is the one who gets the stats used for it. If I apply Combustion with Wolfguard, his attack, his heat damage, his art's intensity is used for the damage. If I apply Electrification with Perlica, her stats are used. If I apply a Nature Burst with Fluorite, her stats are used. If I break Solidification with a physical character status, their stats are used even if Solidification was applied by someone else. So Art's Intensity is a unique multiplier to all things arts and physical statuses. First, the damage multiplier is a 1 point to 1% conversion. If you have 100 Art's Intensity, you get an extra 100% unique damage to anything arts or statuses, so a 2 times multiplier. It then has a specific conversion that buffs the damage amplification effects of Corrosion, Electrification, and Breach. It is a diminishing multiplier, but the effect remains potent. If I have 100 Art's Intensity, I am multiplying my Breach, or Electrification, or Corrosion's power by 1.5 times. So a max breach would instead be amplifying my physical damage by 1.36 times rather than 1.24 times, equal to a 10% team-wide physical damage increase. Finally, Art's Intensity buffs any stagger-based effects, so only knockdown and lift right now, by a 1 point to 0.5% stagger multiplier conversion. 100 Art's Intensity means my lift does 15 stagger rather than 10. Not anything impressive really. All damage in this video can crit except for damage over time, so Combustion's dot effect. They can all be buffed by amp, by sus, by res down. They can take elemental damage percent effects like cryo buffing solidification, physical damage buffing crush. They just can't take ability damage though, like battle skill damage percent, because that's tied to those abilities. So to develop a final formula for anything arts or physical status based, we take their base multiplier, which can vary, multiply it by their stack multiplier, then multiply it by their character level multiplier, and then by the art's intensity multiplier. Then it goes through the exact same formula as normal damage like with attack, amp, sus, and it just ignores ability damage percent. So the strongest way to boost a reaction is by stack amount and art's intensity, but we don't want to go crazy on art's intensity either, as attack percent is still important, and the rest of the kit is likewise, which means we might want damage percent. It will vary by character. We also can't just spam out tons of inflictions for a big combustion. A team needs to have synergy. So even though I've told you how well it can scale, it doesn't mean you can abuse it right now. We'll need characters and team combos that can do so reliably. But that should be all you need to know about arts reactions and physical statuses. If you learned something today, be sure to like and sub to help me out, and share around to anyone else that needs this info. Thank you so much for watching, and have a guoba day.